I saw a pastor write this on Facebook recently. The difference in spiritual hunger between Chinese students at church and regular Brits is startling. As I preached a simple gospel on Sunday, the Chinese were perched on the edge of their seats and full of questions at the end, engaging with a Bible study on the sermon over lunch. While it's difficult to read body language when you're in full flow, most others seem to be stifling yawns. That is a picture of world Christianity at the moment. The East is ablaze, the West is asleep, with exactly the same gospel. Still, who cares, so long as we have a Merry Christmas. These words are clearly filled with frustration, and I can see why. It must be extremely frustrating to preach passionately week in, week out, and find that it doesn't seem to be motivating the church or arousing any kind of emotion. To preach your heart out and find that everyone is just as apathetic going out as they were when they came in. I guess the pastor may look for numerous solutions or reasons as to why this should be the case. Perhaps he should redouble his efforts and preach it twice as hard in the hope that it will re-evoke the passion that all Christians feel when they first meet Jesus. Perhaps, as this pastor seems to feel, it's a cultural thing or some judgment from God to harden the hearts of the people in a certain part of the world. I propose that the reason, however, is far more obvious. It's simply that teaching the basic gospel message to mature converts is like a teacher trying to teach college students what 1 + 1 is. We know it, we get it, we understand it, we accept it. There's no need to kick at an open door. There's no need to try to convert the converted or try to make believers out of those who already believe. We're in, we've signed up. But what comes next? Imagine a mathematics professor getting exasperated with 18-year-old university students saying, "Why are you not grasping 1 + 1? Why are you not getting excited about it? Why are you not perched on the edge of your seats like these 5-year-old kids are?" The students may well reply, "We grasped it a long time ago and we were excited about it when we were their age. But what now? Where do we go from here? We've long been ready to be challenged with more." These are the questions that many Christians are asking themselves. We get the gospel message, really we do. But what comes next? Is this it? Are we just going to come to a church service every Sunday to hear variations of the same message for the rest of our lives? Is that what Christianity is? Sitting in services trying to coerce ourselves into feeling the same level of excitement we had about the gospel message as when we first believed? Is merely feeling excited or emotional the end goal here? Some pastors would have you believe that, and so many Christians who attend church begin to feel guilty about the restlessness and boredom they experience when they turn up on a Sunday morning to hear yet another gospel message. And you can see why it's easy to feel guilty. This is, after all, the most glorious event in all of history, the pivotal event that created a way for us to have everlasting life. Wow! The magnitude and reality of the gospel really can't be overstated. What a glorious message it is, and it truly is the foundation of everything we believe, and how absolutely vital it is that we get our understanding of it right before we attempt to move on to anything else. When builders build houses, the foundations are the most important part of the structure and take longest to establish. And it's the same with the Christian life. We must make sure that the foundations are right. I certainly do not want to diminish the importance or sheer majesty of the gospel. But at the same time, we must not lose sight of the fact that foundations are simply that, foundational. Once you have grasped it and accepted it, there is simply no need to go over it again and again and again. Like the Hebrews writer says, that's actually detrimental to your growth. At some point, you must move forward and build on those strong foundations. You may be one of those who is misinterpreting your own restlessness in church, thinking, "I'm bored with this, and since the problem plainly can't be with the message, the problem must be with me. My heart must have grown cold. This isn't moving me like it once did. I must be drifting or backsliding. I'm not perched on the edge of my seat like the Chinese students over there. I don't feel the same level of excitement as when I first believed." Not necessarily. If you were to listen to the same song every day, you may get bored of that song, but it wouldn't necessarily follow that you have become bored of music altogether. If you drink milk every day, you will eventually become bored of milk, but that doesn't mean you have ceased to have any appetite at all. Similarly, if you hear the same message at church every week, you may get bored of that message, but it doesn't necessarily follow you have no appetite for Jesus. On the contrary, the more likely explanation is that you are ready for something deeper and more substantial. You're ready to move from nursery rhymes to concertos. You're ready to move from milk to meat. It's not necessarily cause for concern if you don't feel the same heights of emotion as you once did every time you hear the gospel message. Listen to this observation on feelings by C.S. Lewis. Being in love is a good thing, but it is not the best thing. There are many things below it, but there are also many things above it. You cannot make it the basis of a whole life. It is a noble feeling, but it is still a feeling. Now, no feeling can be relied on to last in its full intensity or even to last at all. Knowledge can last, principles can last, habits can last, but feelings come and go. And in fact, whatever people say, the state called being in love usually does not last. If the old fairy tale ending, they lived happily ever after, is taken to mean they felt for the next 50 years exactly as they felt the day before they were married, then it says what probably never was or ever could be true, and would be highly undesirable if it were. Who could bear to live in that excitement for even 5 years? What would become of your work, your appetite, your sleep, your friendships? But of course, ceasing to be in love need not mean ceasing to love. Love in the second sense, love as distinct from being in love, is not merely a feeling. It is a deep unity maintained by the will and deliberately strengthened by habit, reinforced by, in Christian marriages, the grace which both parents ask and receive from God. They can retain this love even when each would easily, if they allowed themselves, be in love with someone else. Being in love first moved them to promise fidelity. This quieter love enables them to keep the promise. It is on this love that the engine of marriage is run. Being in love was the explosion that started it. C.S. Lewis is describing a relationship between a man and a woman, but a similar thing happens in our spiritual lives, in our marriage with Christ, if you will. When we first meet Jesus, we experience an explosion of excitement similar to that feeling of being in love, and it's that ignition spark that starts our relationship with Him. But by and by, that initial euphoria will give way to a quieter and more enduring love. That second type of love for Christ is the engine on which our relationship with Him is run. It is a love that is maintained by the will and deliberately strengthened by habit. It is reinforced in our daily walk with Him, our prayer times, our Bible study, our acts of kindness and generosity for others, and our God-glorifying ministries. These are the things that can be sustained over the course of a lifetime, even as feelings ebb and flow, and as we are intentional about them, our relationship with Him will deepen. The feelings of euphoria will come and go throughout your life. I still often get them when I hear certain songs or see a beautiful landscape or sunset. They're great when they arrive, but like all feelings, they can never be relied upon to remain in their full intensity and will leave as quickly as they came. And this is okay, really, because feelings are not the thing on which your relationship with God is run, in the same way that feelings are not the thing on which a marriage is run. Feelings are volatile, but true love is an act of the will. If you make it the goal of your Christian life to always just feel the same level of excitement you had when you first met Jesus by listening to the same gospel message over and over again, and then judge your spiritual condition on those feelings, you will only experience frustration, guilt, and anguish. Furthermore, it's missing the point. Feeling euphoric is not the end goal of Christianity. The frustrated pastor observed on his Facebook post that there was a striking difference between British people and Chinese people during his gospel sermon. Philip Yancey talked about this difference in an interview for the Christian Post, saying, "When I go around the world, I kind of divide the church up into 3 stages: the honeymoon, the divorce stage, and the 25-year marriage stage. So you go to Europe and they're pretty much in the divorce stage. Now there's still the shell of churches, but tourists, not worshippers. You go to a place like Brazil, where we were, or the Philippines, or China, and you see the church in the honeymoon stage. It's all new. They're excited. It's thrilling. It sounds like good news." The gospel message is simply new to the Chinese. They haven't heard it before. They're spiritual infants who need this milk. They're in the first flush of love, and they're getting the same explosion of excitement that we felt when we first heard the gospel. It rightly thrills them. But if their pastors keep giving them milk and never move on to solid food, the Chinese culture will be where Europe is within a few generations. Bored, restless, disengaged, and looking for answers from other sources. It needn't be this way. There is no fundamental reason why the church in various parts of the world should reach a divorce stage with God at all. But we must look for progression. Lewis continues with his thoughts on feeling, saying, "It is simply no good trying to keep any thrill. That is the very worst thing you can do. Let the thrill go. Let it die away. Go on through that period of death into the quieter interest and happiness that follow, and you will find you are living in a world of new thrills all the time. But if you decide to make thrills your regular diet and try to prolong them artificially, they will all get weaker and weaker and fewer, and you will be a bored, disillusioned old man for the rest of your life. It is much better fun to learn to swim than to go on endlessly and hopelessly trying to get back the feeling you had when you first went paddling as a small boy." When we make feeling excited about the gospel our end goal, we will find the initial thrill getting weaker and we will become bored and disillusioned. It's only as we progress that we will discover we are living in a world of new thrills all the time. Rather than trying to get back the feeling we had when we first went paddling, we must learn how to swim. Rather than trying to get back the feeling we had when we went on our first date, we must learn to get married, have children, find new hobbies, have grandchildren. And rather than trying to get back to the feeling we had when we first heard the gospel, we must progress in our spiritual walk and build on those foundations. We must learn to see that the gospel is the beginning of the journey for us, not the end. It's only the first step. We must continually push back horizons, dream bigger dreams, attempt bigger things, reach new goals, and as we do so, we will discover we are living in a world of new thrills all the time. We will rediscover that a true walk with God is far from boring. It is in fact the most exciting way to live. All this begs the question though, why do so many pastors insist on giving us milk anyway?